Hello and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways, family, and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. This is the first time in 1,000 years, or however long you want to say it, in a very, very long time, that we are actually energetically free enough to start to create our own narratives without having to toil and suffer and, fight against the currents, because the force is with us, as I like to say. But those are stories for the days. Now, you've probably already heard that Mali has taken a massive decision, family. They have terminated all military agreements with France. The military-led transitional government said, all military and defense cooperation treaties with France were done. And this is a massive sign. I think Mali is the first country that has had the kahunas, the balls, to do this, family. And this is a major change. But I think and I hope that the Malian government is now ready for the retaliation attack, because you know what? What they're doing is they are actually now touching France's money. And we all know that France would be a third world country if it wasn't for the natural resources that it siphons from its former colonies. And, the deal was first signed in 2014. So what happened in 2013? The jihadists, we have to look into who are these jihadists, man, all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere, which gave France an excuse to move in a massive contingent of their army into the Sahel Desert. And then it seemed to just escalate and get worse and worse. So they brought more army people. But in the latest coup, the latest military government was like, no, we're done. And they're giving, the reason that they are actually saying that they've cut off all military agreements is they say that France has continuously, flagrantly violated the military agreement, taking advantage of Mali. Now I'm just adding my vibes, taking advantage of Mali. We've seen them fly over their airspace without permission. And I mean, that's how they used to carry on. I mean, there were even reports, I talked about this a couple of years ago, how France used to literally ferry things. The jets would go from France to the Sahel back to France. Like, no government, African government, or even the Malian government wasn't fully aware of what was going on. It's all about natural resources. Every war in Africa is about our gold, our diamonds, our resources. That's what it's about. But Mali, as I was saying earlier, I really hope they know what's up. I hope they're ready, because let us not be surprised. And I don't want to sound like some prophet of doom, but we have to look at the habits of our enemies before to understand how they may operate now. And let's not assume that after this public humiliation of France, and France, we have to think of it like this narcissistic, abusive, manipulative, husband. You turn him down, you best believe if he has a chance, he's going to mash up your life. And Mali just needs to be prepared for the possibility of an increase in jihadist attacks. And all they have to actually look at is what France did when the colonialism allegedly ended, or when we shifted from the colonial agenda to the neo-colonial agenda. But when France was forced to leave Africa the first time, they did something called the scorched earth policy, where they brought down telephone poles, brought down electricity lines, mashed up buildings, mashed up the road, left the country in tatters, which is just such a negative, aggressive, dark, man. And that's why they say, as although it's both Western nations, the colonization by France was very different from the colonization by Portugal or the colonization by the divided kingdom. All of them were cruel in their own unusual ways, but those are stories for other days. This is absolutely huge. And they said that the agreements that were cancelled included the Treaty on Defense Cooperation reached in 2014, among others. And they said there is also the additional protocol of 6th and 10th March determining the status of non-French detachments of the Takuba Task Force, where 800 troops from a total of 10 European nations, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Estonia, France, Italy, Hungary, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Sweden were deployed to the Sahel, and a large part of Mali remains under the control of the jihadists. But I have a feeling they know this. And you know, the sad truth that I need to mention about this is that, you know, the Malian government, the only way they're able to take this very, like, because France is tripping, family. They're totally tripping. And the only reason they've been able to do this is because they've brought in the Wagner group, which is basically like some gangsters from Russia. And that is what has been tripping out France and has checked France and actually seen France start to withdraw their troops. And France has already talked about how they're not happy that the Wagner group is there. It's going to cause further instability. But it shows you, like, ever since the coup happened and this new regime came in, and France wasn't in control of this new regime, they have done everything. They have shown their true colors. They've lost it. First, they tried to force a snap election. It didn't happen. So they put economic sanctions. Then they went to the economic states of West Africa, got them to condemn Mali for, you know, not having some kind of transition to democracy, because that's where they were going to try and penetrate. When that didn't happen, they took them to the United Nations. Why would they be so concerned about what's happening in in Mali? You think it's because they care about black people? I mean, come on, family. It's because this whole situation has touched their money. And they can't afford to have their money messed with right now when the whole world is trying to switch to a digital frequency, et cetera, et cetera. Like, they can't have that free access to natural resources change. And you know, Europe is so greedy because they would rather send armies and forcefully extract our gold, our diamonds, our minerals, than pay Africa a little money or even a 10% of the profit they make from it, from the gems and everything they take from us. They don't even want to release that to us. The ultimate level of greed, like, they want to maintain the status quo where they rape Africa. Like, that's it. Where they exploit, they don't have to pay nobody, they don't have to do nothing, they just get these things for free. And they will literally do anything to do that, to maintain that, you know, that neo-colonial system, which is an economic, cultural, and religious colonization, among others. So France responded to Mali's decision to end its military cooperation agreement by describing it as unjustified. And, you know, Mali's military government had already announced that it was terminating all defense accords. So they'd already given the hint, and they'd actually cited several violations of its sovereignty by the French forces, as well as a deep degradation of military cooperation with France for some years now. And they said, you know, France has stated that it believes this decision is unjustified and that any infringement on the bilateral legal agreement will be vigorously opposed. If I was the Malian government, I'd take that as a threat. What does it mean, will be vigorously opposed? When we enter a military corporation, it's supposed to be of our own volition and free will. But it shows you that it's never that simple. It's like here in Kenya, family. At the very beginning of the current president's reign, he actually tried to end the military occupation of the divided kingdom here in Kenya. He tried to end that military corporation. And it did not go well. There were threats, there was anger, there was gaslighting, there was manipulation. And so they're still here. But it highlighted to many Kenyans and many Africans that these are not cooperations. These are not a win-win situation. This is the neo-colonial army that continues to occupy Africa. And when you look at the map of Africa, you'll see that nearly every country has some kind of foreign military presence. And the ones that don't are being destabilized. The Somalias, the freaking, you know, Ethiopias of this world. The Libyas of this world when Gaddafi was still in control. And so just as a warning to Mali, I hope you're ready. Because you're dealing with a nasty enemy who's vigorously gonna oppose your right to end whatever corporation you want to end. And this should be every African country, government, youth should be following this story, because we know this is our season of liberation. If you as a people or as a person do not want to fight in the liberation from Africa, then you will be pushed aside so that your space can be taken by a newborn baby who will be a warrior who is here to fight. Like, we are not in a joking season. The ancestors ain't playing with us. We asked to be here at such a time as this, so we better be ready to do what needs to be done. So we should be looking at this because it exposes to us fully the nature of the enemy, the dangerous nature of the enemy, and how our liberation is not going to be just a walk in the park, family. And it's not going to come through political means by telling Babylon, we're done, we don't want to have these corporations anymore. It's not going to come like that. It's not going to come through economic liberation. They've literally made that impossible. It's not going to come through a United States of Africa because they have so many moles everywhere. They have so many clone presidents everywhere. It's going to come through a spiritual revival. And that's why they've invested so heavily in the religious colonization of our people and in making God white like them, in making God Caucasian like them. That's why they've invented. That's why they invented the whole narrative, stolen from our own sacred books of the story of our nations and our peoples, and then literally whitewash that. Because they know, like, they've made it literally impossible for us to gain freedom any other way but spiritually. Our revival is coming to the motherland, family. I hope you're on the side, the right side of her story. And we continue to send our prayers and our best wishes to Mali for taking such bold steps to end the neo-colonization of our nations. Tuko pamoja.